The way we take care of ourselves is ever evolving.
And what we know for sure is that our mind and spirit are linked to our physical body.
And that our wellness seems to extend into our communities and the planet we all share.
It is very, very clear that wellness is interconnected.
We love spending time with you to explore and practice the breakthroughs, the insights, and the passions of incredible people helping us all see the world in a whole new light.
This is Health Gig.
This week on Health Gig is part 2 of the conversation. If you missed last week's conversation, go on back and listen, and then come on back. We'll be here and we'll continue the conversation.
What makes Bask different from other sunscreens?
So I think that there's kind of some of the lighter things, which is just like, look at how happy and fun it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something that's very approachable and very vibrant. And when you go and you see it in a retail setting next to other sunscreens, it really pops out on the shelf. And I think our whole tone of voice and our whole approach is something that people have really, really responded to. But the most important thing on the product side is, you know, I had never launched a sunscreen company or a personal care company before. So I didn't know anything of how to do that. But my training before this was as, you know, a growth marketer. And so we went out and we decided to get as much data as we possibly could and ask as many questions as we possibly could. We surveyed 50,000 people. We wanted to understand what they dislike about sunscreen. We also wanted to understand what they like about it. And then we personally interviewed, between my wife and I, 500 people. And it was a very time-consuming process, but we got all of this great information. And it turns out people hate that sunscreen stings their eyes. They hate that it stains their clothes. We solve for those things. But number one, and most importantly, and this jumped off the chart, people hate how sunscreen feels.
Yeah.
So we maniacally focused on that sensorial aspect and, you know, how it feels and how it applies and how it rubs in. We got all these like great adjectives like, oh, it's greasy, sticky, oily, goopy, white cast. And we did dozens and dozens of iterations of the product in front of groups of people where we didn't stop formulating until 95% of them said, I love how this feels on my skin, not like, but love. And 90% of people picked Bask in a blind feel test versus the other sunscreens out there. So when we emerged from product development, we were like, okay, we have solved for the number one issue that people have with sunscreen. And we have the data to demonstrate that this is the world's best feeling sunscreen. And so with that, we came to market. And, you know, if you look at the reviews on our site, it's like, I joke around, it looks like my mom wrote them, you know, like people are like, wow, this really does feel amazing.
So what's really important too, I know to Doro and to me, is what goes on our skin, being that it is our largest organ, right? And you talked earlier about what we put in our body really matters. And of course, this is going into our body. So can you talk about the ingredients?
Yeah. Well, so I actually think in sun care, there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation around products and ingredient sets. You know, I think that one thing that we should all know is that sunscreen ingredients, for the most part, outside of two that I would avoid, are oxybenzone and octinoxate. Outside of oxybenzone and octinoxate, you should feel very confident that your sunscreen is doing good work for you. But we exclude those two. You know, we've tried to create as simple and straightforward ingredient set as we possibly could. You know, kind of similar to food, you want to shorten ingredient list as possible, typically. But I will say this, if I had the choice between getting a sunburn and wearing oxybenzone, I might should wear the oxybenzone. I never go anywhere without my Bask, but I think that the risk of UV damage should probably be scarier to anybody than what you would put on your skin as it relates to this particular category. I think that's important to know because we know that UV radiation will cause cellular mutation within minutes of exposure, especially to UVA rays, which is why it's really important, by the way, to always find a broad spectrum sunscreen. And I think that, in that period of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, where sunscreen was being billed as a way to get tan without getting burned, there was a ton of protection from UVB rays. I shouldn't say a ton because we were talking about like SPF 5s and 6 oftentimes, but there was only UVB protection and there wasn't UVA protection. And UVA is a longer wave that gets deeper into your skin. And it's what, if you went to a tanning bed, they use UVA rays. That's the stuff that we really, really ought to protect against and use a broad spectrum sunscreen.
What do you mean by broad spectrum?
As in, it covers both UVB and UVA rays.
Okay.
When you say tanning beds, it's like, oh gosh, back in the
Brings
day.
back
Okay.
memories.
Oh my God. Okay.
Well, the tanning beds, I'll say this, one of the most magical things about starting this business, and it was totally unexpected, was all of these people that I've gotten the opportunity to meet who have experience with skin cancer in some way. There's a lot of people who have lost family members like I did, and there's a lot of people who are survivors or are currently battling it or who have successfully battled it themselves. And this has been this like wonderfully cathartic experience for me, who is like your typical kind of dumb dude who never really came to terms with the emotion associated with losing my family member. It's been like really, really incredible. But one of the things I've noticed in talking to a lot of younger people, skin cancer is one of the most diagnosed cancers amongst people under the age of 30. And I grew up or went to college with and went to high school with a lot of people who had like subscriptions to tanning beds and would go every single day. And, we've got a customer who has become a friend who was first diagnosed with skin cancer at the age of 27, and she was addicted to tanning. And she would go to tanning beds. And, it's like, I really want to, through this, advocate to people that like tanning's like cigarettes. You really shouldn't seek out a tan. You should really love your skin and love how it looks. But to your earlier point, Tricia, like it's an organ. You're not going to like put your stomach in a microwave, which is,
Right.
In many ways kind of what you would do when you tan for a long period of time.
Mike, can you walk through the different kinds of skin cancers? We know that melanoma is really scary, and we hear a lot about melanoma, and there's not good stories around that. But what about the others?
It is a great question because I think a lot of people don't really take the non-melanoma skin cancers as seriously as they should. And, the good thing I would say about, skin cancer in general is that if you get your skin checked on an annual basis, you have a really, really good shot of catching it early and dealing with it effectively. That combined with other sun safety measures, you're going to be, very much in the clear. But you shouldn't scoff at, a squamous cell or a basal cell. These skin cancers can destroy your skin. They can phenomenally alter your life. I have a friend that I've met through Bask who had basal cells and squamous cells that have, caused in many ways disfiguration. One thing, she had a squamous cell on her lip. They had to remove her entire lip and half of her cheek and, reattach it to the ball of her cheek. And, she has to see that every day when she looks in the mirror because, even though it's not a melanoma, skin cancer is a cell-eating monster and it does not discriminate. And you really want to do your best to avoid these things. And my biggest suggestion to everyone is go see your dermatologist on a regular basis. Never miss your annual trip. Typically, it's going to be completely painless and they're not going to find anything. But if they find something, boy, are you glad that they found it, because they can do something with it really quick that's not very invasive. And if you had waited 5 or 10 years, then it could have gotten really, really bad.
Tell us what you're really excited about now, your new product. We can't wait to use it. Dora and I are using
Yeah.
the other products. We haven't used this one yet.
Yeah, we just launched this. It's our Daily Invisible Gel. And it is really interesting because it's completely invisible. So even though all of our current products are very sheer, they come out white and then you rub them in. This is invisible, from product tube to your palm. And it's also incredibly hydrating.
You said it's like a primer, right? Like we could put it on as a primer under our makeup.
We kind of think about it as like the last step of your skincare routine and the first step of your beauty routine.
Oh, that's good.
That makes sense.
It's
The
it's
in-between.
meant to be used every single day. And we use squalane in it, which is an unbelievable ingredient that's deeply hydrating. And one of the really great things about it is that it unlocks your skin's natural ability to retain water. And
Wow.
we love the idea of water is strength, and this hydration will make your skin stronger. It'll make it more elastic, and you want to have this type of hydration on a daily basis. But then the other thing that's great about it is like, it's a sunscreen first. Like it is super effective. It's got 80-minute sweat and water resistance. It's elegant enough to wear on a daily basis, but it can stand up to your pickleball match or a day at the beach or a sweaty New York City subway ride without breaking down. It's very, very exciting. And we just launched it on our website, but which is basksuncare.com, but also at Nordstrom nationwide.
Oh, great.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. I have to go there this afternoon, so I will be picking mine up.
Amazing.
Is this the first step into maybe getting into the broader health and wellness landscape?
It is in many ways, but the thing is, our goal is to end skin cancer, as like naively ambitious as that sounds. And we really, really care about creating sun care products that can help people to remain sun safe and to prevent skin cancer. But it's not all just pre-sun and SPF. And I think this is kind of the next step for us into a broader sun care that is a part of your daily routine. And if you look forward on some of the stuff that we're going to do and in our product pipeline, we have this whole concept of deep hydration that we're calling après sun. And I think if you think about, after sun products, it's typically been like real sticky aloes because you got a sunburn. And we're thinking about it more as your protein drink after a workout, something that can really, really restore your skin and its hydration at a cellular level post-sun. And there's this great research out of Yale right now that talks about the importance of moisturizing post-sun exposure, which, by the way, for most all of us is every single day, at least on our face and hands. So we're really excited about creating a broader kind of sun care platform that infuses into a lot of the products that we use on a day-to-day.
So earlier you said 54% of people do not use sunscreen. Who makes up that 54%?
It's a lot of people. I think there's a lot of folks who have more melanated skin.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think those of us that think we don't burn, we don't burn, so why in the world would we ever even need to worry about it?
And that's a popular misconception. So I'm really glad that she brought it up, because the most famous person to ever die of skin cancer is Bob Marley. And the nice thing that I've seen in terms of like the category research is that the fastest growing group of people adopting sunscreen is Black women. And it's important that we all use sunscreen, because even if you've got the darkest Fitzpatrick tone, that only gives you a natural SPF of 4. And I can't remember if that number is 4 or 5, but it's somewhere in that range. And that doesn't do much for you. So that's a cohort of folks who don't use sunscreen as much. There's a lot of people that just like really want to be tan.
Tanorexia
We
is what
know
we
some
call
of
it.
them.
I tend to fall in that category. I don't want real tan. I don't want that tan, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I was sunorexia when I was a kid. And it just happens even now. We just still want color. What do you say
Yeah.
to us? What do you say to us?
The thing that we're trying to do broadly is just say, like, look in the mirror and love what you see.
Yeah, love that when you
I
said
love
that.
that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, like love your skin, love yourself. Your skin tone is, one ingredient in this unique you. And you shouldn't try to like burn it or change it, but rather you should try to protect it. And you're preserving, a part of who you are and what makes you unique. And you should embrace that and love that. And, we've done a lot of messaging around that. And I think if we can get this message out more broadly of loving your skin and loving your skin tone the way it is, we will do more in terms of combating skin cancer than anything else we could have done. It's just to get that message far and wide and to get people to love themselves for who they are.
I have a question. Where is this made?
We make it in Miami, Florida.
That's good. Another plus for Bask, American made,
Yeah.
which is
Yes.
so great.
American made, Miami made, and we're based in Miami too.
You know what I find interesting too, since the food is medicine, and we talked a little bit about that at the beginning, also eating seasonally. So lycopene, right, actually offers sun protection. Not enough, but it's in the summer. There's tomatoes, there's watermelon, and that's another way to boost your sun protection in addition to using Bask. Just thought
Yes,
I'd add that in.
No, and I'm really interested in the idea of supplementing. If you're taking vitamin D and if you're taking algae, there's a lot of additional sun protection that you can do internally. There's also, as I referenced earlier, 54% of Americans never wear sunscreen. The group of Americans that wear sunscreen and are vitamin D deficient have hardly any overlap. And if you think about
yeah, because they're probably the ones that are taking care of themselves and taking supplements.
they're generally happier and healthier people.
Yeah, right.
And they spent, think about, what is sunscreen fundamentally? It's not something that I put on to go hang out in my dark basement. It's a tool to spend more time outside.
Also, it would hit the people that are a little bit more health conscious, right? Because they're saying, I don't want to get sunscreen. I don't. So most likely they'll be taking supplements. Maybe that's a big jump, but they know the importance of taking vitamin D3.
Yes. I think that's a really compelling thing. And, on social media, there's so much gurus who are trying to sell you their cookbook and, they'll say whatever gets attention so that they can kind of push you off to some other thing that they're selling, right? I think combating that misinformation and disinformation is a really important thing to do. And I think this is a really phenomenal topic that I actually see a lot, on the internet. It's well known that UVB stimulates the production of vitamin D in us. And so a lot of people have a conclusion that wearing sunscreen will prevent them from producing vitamin D. The important thing to know fundamentally is the sunscreens, even at the highest SPFs, don't block enough UVB to prevent you from getting the amount that you need to produce the vitamin D that you need. And so it shouldn't be a concern from that perspective. But I think the other thing to understand is that sunscreen is a tool for us to spend more time outside. And it's not something that, if you're sitting in your dark basement on a daily basis, perusing the internet, I don't recommend wearing sunscreen. But if you're somebody who is like me, who really loves being outside and loves the sunshine and wants to do it more and wants to do it with confidence and protection, sunscreen is for you. And, it's a tool to allow you to experience the sun and the outdoors more. So this is something that I've seen a lot, but I don't think that there should be a general concern around it.
Mikey, can you share some of the success stories and impacts that Bask has had on individuals and communities?
Yeah, I love that. It's really something else to get the feedback from people that they love this product that you work so hard on and you toiled away on. And we've had so many people who have come to us and said, before Bask, I could never use sunscreen. It would always break me out in a rash and I would always get hives. And Bask is the first sunscreen I've ever been able to use. We have one woman whose daughter is really, really fair skinned. She's 5 years old. And she had this exact experience where they could never put sunscreen on her without her breaking out into hives and having an allergic reaction. And someone said, hey, why don't you try this Bask brand that I just found? And she used it on her daughter and it worked perfectly. She didn't break out in a rash. And now it's all she wears and it's all her family wears. And that is such a great thing for me, considering what our mission is, because we've given people who hate sunscreen or can't use sunscreen a sunscreen that they can finally use and are finally comfortable with. And that makes my day and makes all the work worth it.
So amazing what you've created. And as you said, it's such an inclusive way of saying to yourself, just get out in the sun and have fun, enjoy it, don't fear it. This whole idea of how we embrace life, kind of, as you said at the very beginning, how we can keep ourselves healthy and strong. And a really good way to do that is to be in the sun, but do it with a great sunscreen. It makes a lot of sense. And it moisturizes your skin at the same time.
Yes.
Yes.
Which
is very important.
Yeah. Both aesthetically and also important for health.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Too.
So, Mikey, how do you take care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit?
I've got a pretty stringent daily routine that I stick to. And I've been on this routine for probably around 6 years now.
Wow.
And I think the most important thing for me is I wake up every single day at 4:50 and I have this window of about an hour to 2 hours where it's just me and nobody from the outside world is bothering me about X, Y, or Z thing. And in that time period, I try to do a physical activity to get my heart rate going. I try to do something around my mental health, whether it be yoga or journaling or meditation. And then I try to learn something. So I always sign up for these Udemy classes. I just finished one on getting better at creating Excel worksheets and things like that.
Oh, what is it called? Udemy? What's it called?
Udemy, it's just the world's largest free online university. And so every single day, I'm starting out with a physical activity, something to ground myself, whether it be meditation or yoga, and learning something that isn't specifically related to, my day-to-day job running Bask. And getting into that routine has been so wonderful for me. Literally just having that hour to myself is so important.
I like that too.
Do you work on your protein intake?
I try to eat 100 to 150 grams of protein on a daily basis.
How do you get your protein in?
A lot of grilled chicken. I love me some grilled chicken, but then I eat a ton of quinoa too. And I track my macros every single day in MyFitnessPal. I'm better at it now over time because I've been doing it for so long, I can kind of guesstimate. But yeah, I try to get 100 to 150 grams of protein on a daily basis.
Wow.
Wow, Mikey, what a great discussion today. And Tricia and I want everybody, because we love Bask, and we want
Yes.
everybody else to have an opportunity. So do you have a special code for our Health Gig listeners?
I do. If you go to basksuncare.com at checkout, enter Health Gig, one word, and it's 20% off of your next Bask order.
Wow.
Thank
you
you.
for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, happy to.
And thank you for joining us today. This has been an amazing conversation, and this is so good to see you again.
Thank you very much for having me. Great talking.
Thank you for joining us on Health Gig. We loved having you with us. We hope you'll tune in again next week. In the meantime, be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast and follow us on healthgigpod.com. I'm Tricia.
And I'm Doro.
Be well.